neatest things that we've done and learned about over the last couple of years is having chickens. Now, they're very easy. Now, we got, originally we had 12 chickens. We got them about 2.5 years ago, and 3 ended up being roosters, so we ended up giving those back to the feed store, which they took them because they had somebody else who could use the roosters, and 3 of them died from the heat. So, and then I have my original 6 then that are laying eggs still. Now their production has gone down a little bit with the heat, but it'll hopefully pick back up when the weather cools down. But they are still laying. They lay really good, nutritious eggs, and with chickens, I know a lot of people, they say, well, you know, you only feed them the feed, and they need grains, they need corn and some layer feed. But I kind of subscribe to a different philosophy. They can pretty much, you can give them just about anything, and they'll take that, eat it, and incorporate it into the eggs. And it's a good way to get rid of a lot of the things that you have sitting around your refrigerator. And, you know, nothing really goes to waste. Like for Ernie, when we juice for him every day, we juice apples, carrots, and kale or collards, and all of that pulp is left over, and they love that. It's really nutritious for them, but they look for that every day. Now this here, this used to be a shed in our backyard where we used to live before, and Ernie insisted that we bring this over and we put it out here to make it for a coop. And I gave him a hard time about it, but I'm really glad he did because it works really well for what we need. These, you know, this doesn't move, but this door can open and close, and then we have a little swinging door here that we can open up if we need to. But if you want to come inside, we have the different feeds. This is for the smaller chicks. The chickens that we have now that are the babies are about 4 months old, and this is one of the babies here. Now they're pretty big now, and this is over here is one of the older ones. So you can see the size difference really isn't that much anymore. And in about another month or so, we're going to get, well, we have a total of 19 chickens. We're probably going to get about 15 or so eggs a day. And so what we do with that is we barter with people, you know, outside of giving them to my family, because there's plenty enough to go around. We barter. I've got a friend who makes natural soap. She uses just some real natural products and stuff, and it's really expensive, but I give her some of my eggs, she gives me the soap, we're good. Another person had some butter that they made, and so we just traded the eggs for the butter. And so it's really good to have, in these trying times that I think are coming, it's going to be really good to have something that you can trade with. And so the eggs are a really good thing. A lot of people like the fresh eggs. So this feed here is just the grower feed, which is what you basically need to, you know, from the time that your chicks are little, for the first couple of weeks, they're just going to be eating the starter feed, which is good for them. And then once they get a little bit older, in a couple months, they for about the first the month of their life, and then through about 4 months or 5 months till they start laying the eggs, they just eat that start and grow feed. And when they start laying the eggs, then you want to switch them over to the layer feed. Now this has the cracked corn and the lay pellets and everything in there, and they eat this. Every day it has extra calcium and a little bit of extra protein in there, which is what they need for good, healthy, strong eggs. Now this is where our chickens lay their eggs. I mean, every chicken has a different place that they kind of like to go in, and I've kind of cordoned it off here because they like a little bit of privacy. Some of them like to sit in the box, some of them like to sit up here, and we've got a few eggs this morning here from them. Like I said, they're not laying too awful much right now, but they are laying, and it's good to have. I really hope that you guys get some chickens out there. You got to check with your local authorities about how, but most people nowadays, most areas, they do allow chickens. Now in the heart of the city, they're not going to allow the roosters, but kind of out where we are, we're not in a rural setting. We're in an older section of town that back in the 70s had acreage properties, and so you're allowed to have roosters, and you can have horses and all that and all those types of things here, and they're all grandfathered in. So it just depends on where you live, but most municipalities you can have chickens. You just have to go through that and see. Now another thing out here in heat. Now, like I said, initially I had lost 3 chickens to the heat. Now I, want to be a good steward of my chickens, and if you treat them well, they'll be good layers for you, and they're friendly. All my chickens, when I come out in the morning, they come up to me. They think I have food or whatever, but they're very friendly. They're not afraid. I mean, you can just walk over and pick them up. You know, you hold them under their breast, and they're very easy to hold on to. That way they can't flap their wings. But you know, you want to keep your animals healthy and happy, because they'll be better producers for you. But what we've had to do here, this works very well. I just attach this to a hose. It's a little misting system. I don't know if you can see this or not, but the water just comes out of the top and it mists this area. And the chickens during the day, they just hang under that. If you can kind of see the sprays going that way, they get a lot of the coolness from them. And it's a life-sustaining thing. I've got a couple of these around. I've got some chickens that like to hang on this part of the yard during the day. It's pretty quiet. They just kind of sit there in the shade and under the misting system, and then some others on the other side of the yard, and they got their own little thing going. But it does keep them cool, and they're able to survive that way. Now, this is an experiment in progress. These are our tobacco plants. They don't look like much now because they've gone through quite a bit. We plowed this big plot, or Ernie did. This was going to be his project, was to grow his tobacco and roll cigars. So we'd have Freedom's Phoenix cigars that we could just see how they work out. Didn't work all that well. The first seed, planted these way back in March, I believe, from seeds, and I managed to kill those off, so I had to restart another batch. And it takes a couple of months to get them actually up to seed, and they looked really great. Now when I put them in the ground, they didn't do well at all. Just the heat, the shock, and everything, they got them in too late. So what we're going to do is we're going to start this again in the fall, probably late August. I've got to start them from seed now, and probably plant them late August or September. I think they'll do a lot better here, but there's plenty of room. These plants get really big and they get bushy in their leaves and everything, so we've got plenty of room here to give it another shot. Another thing we did was we ordered some of the plants from a supplier, and they had issues too where they were, and the plants didn't do well, and so they had to grow some other ones, and so they got to us late. So this whole project it's still a work in progress, and we'll keep you updated as to how that's going in the fall whenever we get those going. But what we really want to establish here is that, and hopefully we can impart some information to you, but it's really important that we all learn how to garden at least a little bit. I mean, if you live in an apartment or a small house, I mean, put some tomatoes out on the patio. Just start with something, learn how to do it. Talk to your neighbors, and your friends and your family will ask you about it. And I mean, I had that happen when I got chickens. A couple other people got chickens, or I got chickens because a friend of mine did, and then when I got them, a lot of other people did, and started gardening, and then they did. So it's really important just to start somewhere so you can learn. It's going to be a really bad thing to just, okay, if everything falls apart now, okay, now we need to learn how to garden, and you don't really have a clue about how to manage the soil or the heat wherever you live, because there's issues with cold weather as well. But it's important to incorporate this type of food into our diet, because the food has been processed and we don't really get the nutrients that we need. But if you actually grow your food, you know what's going into it, you let it ripen on the vine, and that's where a lot of the nutrition is in that ripening process, and then the nutrients and everything. So that's a really important thing to do. So hopefully this video will be helpful to you in your gardening, and I'd like you to share your tips with me as well, because I don't know everything about it and I'm learning. So take this information and go garden.